Thank you all for sticking through so long. I was on and off all night, and I see that some of you have been here for quite a while, unless you just forgot to turn your Zoom off. We will get started now. I want to thank the Bettingers, Dan and Nava Bettinger, for dedicating this year in memory of Nava's father, Shaul Abudi, Zichrono Livracha, who was a member of the Palmach, and it's his yurtzeit. I like to also pick up on a little bit of what Rabbi Schimmel spoke about, which is Megillat Ruth, but really more about Shavuot in general, but how I think Ruth is a real model for what Shavuot and the Torah are all about. Let me just, okay. So I want to really focus just on one pasuk of the Megillah because I think it's just really, it really caught my attention this year. And the very first pasuk begins, Vahi b'mei shvot hashoftim, vayihi ra'av ba'aretz. So it was during the time of the Shoftim, and there was a famine in the land of Israel. Vayelech ish b'Beit Lechem Yehuda, and this person left from Beit Lechem in Yehuda to go to stay Moab with his wife and his children. And really, the opening words seem extremely unnecessary and vague. Why do we need to know that it was a time of the Shoftim at all? How does that have any bearing on the story? It's actually very interesting that we don't hear a word about the Shoftim throughout the book. What was the leaders doing? What was the government doing? What was the leadership of the society doing? They're not really part of the story. And I think that actually, I think the Malbim, I want to share a couple of the points that the Malbim makes. The Malbim really notices this and makes some suggestions. I want to show you a little bit of what he says and then suggest a little bit of the opposite approach that he suggests. And that is, he asks, firstly, Lama Yisaper Shaya b'mei shvot hashoftim. First of all, why do we need to know this? And second of all, if you want to tell me for some reason who was the governing body at that time, why wouldn't you tell me the name of the shofet? And he says that that really everything that happened was a result of the shoftim, because hasiba shehiniya as Elimelech latzeis me'eretz Yisrael lechutz laaretz mipnei shaya b'mei shvot hashoftim. The whole reason why he had to leave was because it was the time of the shoftim. Shal hayamim ha'ela amar bayamim hahem ein melech b'Yisrael ish hayashar be'inav yaseh. That it says in Sefer Shoftim that during the time of the Shoftim there was no king, there was chaos, there was anarchy, there was no leadership. V'gam lo haya az shofet echad miyuchad l'chol Yisrael she'az haya hashofet, and there was no one shofet. There was many shoftim. There was decentralized. There was no consolidated government and power in the leadership of the Jewish people, and because of this, he probably had to leave, because the government, and then the Malvin goes on to say that all the poor were knocking down the doors of the wealthy for food because everyone was hungry. There was no police, there was no government to stop this, there was chaos, and because of that, they had to Elimelech left. And in other words, what the Malbim is saying is that the Megillah opens with a reference to the Shoftim because it was the weakness of the leadership that led to what happens. And I'd like to suggest a little bit of the opposite, that it's more about what the first pasuk is highlighting is that what occurred in this book was beyond the scope and ability of the leadership. And I find this second phrase very interesting, Vayihi ra'av ba'aretz. And it makes you wonder whether the shofet had any control of the Ra'av. That could the leadership have done anything to stop the famine? The famine was much stronger than any leadership. It doesn't really matter who the leadership was. I mean, it reminds you of Yosef, who actually was a strong leader, and and actually solved the problem of the Ra'av in his time. Not that he stopped the Ra'av, but he addressed the problems that the Ra'av caused. And maybe a stronger leader could have done that here also. But really, what I think the Megillah is presenting to us is that there are certain things in the world that are beyond the ability of the shofet to address, and therefore we have to turn our attention to the individual people in the society. And really, you could split the entire Sefer of Rus right here. That this is the part that talks about the leadership, and the rest is about the ish, and the fact that we're always looking towards the government and the leadership, and we want strong leadership, and we need our government to help us through the difficulties. But there are some things in the world that we're experiencing also that, maybe our government's messed up a little bit, but there's also certain things that are beyond their capacity to address and to solve or to model. And sometimes the thing that's more important is, what does every individual person do? And the individuals in Sefer Rus were ordinary people. And in contrast, so much of Tanakh is about the kings and the leaders, and even the Nevi'im, the leadership, the power, the Kohanim. And this is really a sefer of what people do and the heroism of individual people. And I think that that's really a major theme of this Megillah. And I think it also parallels a lot of the other aspects of Shavuos, of the celebration of the Torah. And when it comes to the celebration of the Torah, so I want to share a couple of some more well-known than the other, but the first is a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, where Rabbi Shimon tells us that there are 3 crowns, Shlosha Ketarim Heim, Keter Torah, Keter Kahuna, V'Keter Malchut. There's the crown of Torah, the crown of the priesthood, and the crown of the government, of the kingship, of the monarch. And the Mishnah here in Pirkei Avos concludes, Keter Shem Tov Ole Al Gabeim. The crown of having a good name, is greater than the other 2 crowns, the other 3 crowns. But these 3 crowns are referred to many times in Chazal. And here's another example from the Gemara, where Rabbi Yochanan refers to the 3 crowns also with a different description, Shlosha Zerim Heim. There are 3 zers. The zer Zahav Saviv was above many of the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. Shel Mizbeach, V'shel Aron, V'shel Shulchan. So on these 3 things, there was a zer. On the Mizbeach, the altar, the Aron, and which housed the ark, which housed the Luchot and the Torah, and the Shulchan, and the table which had the Lechem Apanim, the showbread, on them. Shel Mizbeach, Zacha Aharon v'Natlo. The crown on the Mizbeach was taken by Aharon because the Kohanim are the ones who are in control of the altar in the Beis HaMikdash. So this is the Keter Kahuna. Shel Shulchan Zacha David. The Shulchan, which represents the wealth of the society, was taken by David in the sense that David was the king and his descendants, the Malchut Beit David. The Shel Aron, and the crown of the Aron, the ark, Adayin Munachu Kol Arotza Likach Yavo V'Yikach. And the crown of the Aron of the Torah is still up for grabs. No one took it yet. No one owns it yet. Kol Arotza Likach, whoever wants it, Yavo V'Yikach. Shema Tomar Pachodhu. You might think that the Torah crown is lesser. Talmud Lomar Bi Melachim Yimlochu. That in me, that everything comes from God, and God's Torah is the greatest of all. Either in spite of the fact that there's no specific lineage associated with the Torah, or perhaps because of that. So what we see is also a Shavuot celebrating the Torah also has this dimension where we move away from the shoftim, from the leaders, from the power entities, and we say that the Torah is really for everyone, for every individual person. And this is also amplified in the Midrash, which focuses on the fact that the Torah was not given in Eretz Yisrael. The Torah be'Eretz Yisrael. Shaloliton litain pischon pelu umos olam. The first answer that suggests the Midrash is that for the nations of the world, lest they'll say, we would have wanted to be Jewish, we would have wanted to learn the Torah. But it was given in a specific land. Lefikach lo kibalnu aleinu, therefore we couldn't accept it. So therefore the Torah was given in the midbar to say it could be anybody's. Davar acher, another interpretation similarly, shlo lahatil machlokas ben hashvatim, not to create competition amongst the tribes of Israel. So no tribe should say, oh, the Torah is mine because the Torah was chosen in my portion, therefore is given in the midbar, makom hefker, a place of ownerlessness, that the Torah is ownerless. There's no special lineage, there's no special class. That's the Torah. It's for everybody. So again, so parallel to Rus, just like in Rus, we see that the model of kindness that's modeled in the characters in Megillah of Rus are not necessarily people in the main centralized power, and the Shoftim are really not relevant. They're just mentioned in passing in the first pasuk, but they're not really an important part of the story. The important part of the story is how the individuals live and the extraordinary individuals amongst us who can model kindness. The same thing with the Torah that we celebrate on Shavuos is something which is available to every single person, and it's on each person to create our own recreation of Kabbalas HaTorah, to re-accept the Torah and reconnect ourselves to it. But just one question about this, which is, this all sounds very nice, but really one can argue and say there's no actual Torah lineage, and there's no, it's not genetic, but Torah scholarship is also a class, is also an intellectual elite, and it's not really something which necessarily speaks to everyone. And I'd like to suggest that that's not exactly the case. And to show that, I want to show just two more sources about the Torah. The first is the Mishnah in Masechet Peah that we say every day. Elu dvarim she'ein lahem shiur. These are the things that have no shiur. Shiur is not a Torah class, but it's a measurement. There's no measurement for Torah, for Peah, Bikurim, Rayon, Gebilas Chasadim, and Talmud Torah. That when it comes to Talmud Torah, there's no specific amount of Torah. The Torah says learn Torah. It does not say how much Torah. Some people say learn 1 minute a day. Some say learn every second of the day. But really, there's no amount. You just learn whenever you can or whenever you're able to. The same thing with kindness, Gemilas Chasadim. We're not supposed to do 5 minutes of chesed or 5 hours of chesed. It's supposed to be whatever you can. And that's an important characteristic, I think, in particular when it comes to Talmud Torah. And we know, and I'll show you what I mean. The Gemara says that there's a mitzvah that children should train to do mitzvahs. That a child, once he knows how to do a mitzvah, even before bar and bat mitzvah age, they're supposed to start doing the mitzvah. At what age? It depends on the child and on the mitzvah. Whenever they're old enough to do that mitzvah, they should start doing that mitzvah. And the Gemara gives examples. Katan hayodea l'na'anei chayav b'lulav. When once a child knows how to shake his lulav, he should take the lulav. Litateif, if he can get dressed, chayav b'tzitzis, he should wear tzitzis. Lishmor tefillin, aviv lokeach lo tefillin. If he knows how to wear tefillin, he should get tefillin. Yodea l'daber, aviv lomdo Torah v'kriyat shema. If he knows how to speak, he should learn Torah and kriyat shema. And the thing that's fascinating about this formulation is that the child who knows how to speak, who knows how to shake, should take the lulav. And many mefarshim commentaries ask, why does he have to know how to shake? The shaking is very complicated. It's go to all these different directions. Really, the shaking is a rabbinic addition to the mitzvah. The fundamental mitzvah of lulav is just to hold the lulav. So it should have said, once he knows how to hold the lulav, he should start taking the lulav. And if he can't shake it, so what? He'll learn that next year. And Rav Soloveitchik said, and I think others said this also, that what it's trying to teach us is that you have to be able to do the full mitzvah with every detail. Then you're obligated to start practicing. He has to be Yodea L'Na'aneya. And the question I have on that is that what about the last one? Yodei ledaber. How old does a child have to be to know how to speak? 2, 3? I thought you have to know how to do the mitzvah fully. And here, he basically is so minimal in his mitzvah that how could he be obligated to start his mitzvah, to start training in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? And the answer is sort of obvious when you think about it, that Torah is something which has no shiur, there's no amount. And not only no amount of minutes per day, Torah is endless. If the child would only start learning once he's old enough to do, if a child is only old enough to do, if a child wasn't obligated to do mitzvot until he was old enough to do the entire mitzvah perfectly, when it comes to Torah study, he would never have to do the mitzvah. Because who can learn the Torah fully? Who can learn the whole Torah? Not even adults. Not even 50-year-olds. So what it means is that the full mitzvah of learning Torah, the complete mitzvah of Torah study, is to learn one word. It's to do one little amount of Torah. That's the whole mitzvah. Some people could learn for 5 hours. Some people could write a book about the Torah. No one knows the whole Torah. But everyone's equal in the sense that we can strive to try to understand what God wants of us by learning God's Torah. And that's the complete mitzvah of Talmud Torah. So I want to affirm the fact that Torah was given in the desert, in an ownerless place, because Torah is for everybody. And even though some people might enjoy learning more or might be better at it, and there are skills involved, it doesn't really matter, because the mitzvah of Torah is equal for all people. There's no sheer. The mitzvah of Torah is equal for all people, and it's on each person, especially on Chag HaShavuos, to say it's not about the shoftim, it's not about the scholars, it's not about the Kohanim, it's about every individual reconnecting to our Torah and finding something meaningful in our Torah experience. And I'd like to wish everyone a very, very happy Chag HaShavuos and a successful Matan Torah. I'm so glad you stuck it out to the end for me. I'd much rather be the last speaker in a long night than be the last speaker on Shavuos morning at 5:15 when you're really talking to the walls. So I know there are a lot of people behind these blank boxes, but thank you for your attention, and Chag Sameach to everyone.
Chag Sameach, Chag Sameach. Thank you so much, Rabbi Schiowitz. There are many of you who are still on this call and who have been with us from 3 p.m. So thank you all. It is dark outside. When we started today, it was bright and sunny. So thank you for spending your afternoon and evening with us. I will keep this goodbye nice and short. Chag Sameach. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Have a wonderful day.
Chag Sameach.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.